So one of the more credible counters I get to my claims that China will never invade Taiwan successfully is that China won't need to, that they will use political and economic subversion to take over Taiwan, and Taiwan will basically come crawling to the Chinese Communist Party, begging to join their system. And while that is a more likely scenario than a Chinese invasion, it's a scenario that is still highly unlikely. And in this video, I will focus on why it is politically dubious that China pulls Taiwan into its fold. So, in the last 70 to 80 years, Taiwan has focused heavily on its ability to resist Chinese political and economic subversion. This is because the Taiwanese have a distinct national identity that they protect now. Over 60% of Taiwanese and nearly 80% of those under 40 years old identify exclusively as Taiwanese and not Chinese, and this is according to polls from the National Chengxi University. They're very much used to decades of democratic governance and an education system that has emphasized Taiwan's unique history separate from China's, and includes its indigenous heritage as well as Japanese colonial period, things that China suppresses when it comes to educating their people about Taiwan. Like the United States, they have an ingrained sense of local pride, and this is further entrenched when China takes aggressive actions, including military exercises or airspace incursions, which only strengthen Taiwan's resolve. Each threat from China reinforces the perception that unification would erase Taiwan's way of life. Taiwan fundamentally rejects Beijing's one China narrative, which roots itself in a shared Chinese ethnicity or history and wipes out the Taiwanese culture. That holds little appeal for a Taiwanese population that defines itself through values like freedom and self-determination. Furthermore, any credibility that the Chinese Communist Party had Taiwan's best interest in mind was completely obliterated with what happened to Hong Kong. Hong Kong's autonomy was wiped out, even though China had promised the promotion of what was called a one country, two systems model. This very same model was proposed to Taiwan as a way to preserve local Taiwanese freedom while being pulled under Chinese sovereignty. That framework was exposed as completely untenable after the 2019 protests in Hong Kong and the 2020 national security law, which crushed free speech, press, and assembly in Hong Kong and basically put China in charge of Hong Kong. For the Taiwanese, especially those younger and more moderate, what happened in Hong Kong became a stark warning of what unification would bring. Polls from the Taiwan Public Opinion Foundation showed support for unification dropped to just 1% after they saw what happened to Hong Kong. Other polls showed 80% favoring either complete independence or just maintaining the current status quo. Even Taiwan's historically pro-China Kuomintang party distanced itself from Beijing's promises and discussed how China cannot be trusted to honor its agreements. With every passing Taiwanese election, it seems officials are being elected who push further and further away from Beijing, and it reflects the Taiwanese people's wish to remain independent. Unfortunately, much like the United States, there is misinformation prevalent when it comes to trying to influence Taiwanese politics. China meddles in their elections and funds pro-unification candidates, but every single one of these efforts has been thwarted. Unlike American voters who are somewhat ignorant to what China and Russia do in the information space, Taiwanese voters are hyper aware of Beijing's misinformation tactics, and they've seen it in past elections such as in 2018 and 2020, so they staunchly reject anything that smells remotely close to propaganda. There are several credible fact-checking organizations, and their free press exposes China's interference constantly. They passed anti-infiltration laws and other transparent election policies which strengthened anti-China candidates, leading to probably the most anti-China candidate Taiwan has ever seen winning in a landslide in 2020, and then they subsequently elected yet another status quo candidate in William Lai in 2024. So while political subversion may seem like a softer, more feasible path for Beijing, it underestimates just how politically awakened, democratically conditioned, and fiercely independent the Taiwanese people have become. Taiwan is not some passive province waiting to be claimed. It is a vibrant, self-governing democracy with a hardened resistance to external manipulation. The idea that China can simply win Taiwan over politically ignores the deep-rooted national identity, the trauma of Hong Kong, and the political trajectory of an electorate that is moving decisively and irreversibly away from Beijing and the Chinese Communist Party. And so, it's likely not going to happen. But could it happen through economic subversion? In the next video, I will discuss just that.